Hi, everybody. Welcome to Unite for Life's YouTube channel. My name is Bree, and today I have Serena with me, and she's going to share her testimony, a little bit about her ministry. She's an amazing woman. She's helping women heal from abortion, and she's been featured on Focus on the Family. I'm sure many other things. She's just out there making changes and helping women. So, thank you for being here, Serena.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's such an honor, and I'm excited to share.
Yes, yes. So let's go ahead and if you would just tell us a little bit more about yourself, and if you want to just
Mhm.
dive right into your story, we would love to hear it.
Yeah, so I am the founder of She Found His Grace Abortion Recovery, and we actually serve both men and women who have abortion regret in their past and that they just really feel stuck in their pain. And we help them find freedom in Christ. And we get to see lives transformed and families redeemed. And it's just so beautiful and powerful of what God's doing. I just really feel like that the powerhouses of the pro-life movement are the men and women who have had abortions in their past, and they know the truth, but so many are so stuck and don't know how to even talk about their past abortions. And so that's where our heart and our passion comes in. And so not only do we take men and women through the healing process, but we actually go back to the mission field at the abortion clinics and help men and women share their testimonies. And we see women change their minds, and we also see workers quit, and it
Oh,
is powerful. So yeah, and so that's a little bit of what I do. And how did I get started with this? What happened?
yes.
So my story is used 100% of the time of why women need abortions. And it's when I was 13 years old, I was sexually assaulted, which resulted in an unplanned pregnancy. And we went to a Catholic doctor who had a misplaced compassion. And the only thing he offered us was abortion. I had never heard that word before in my life. I had no idea what it was. And so I just trusted the adults making the decision. I just knew that some bad stuff had happened. And so uh, I was referred to a clinic. And before we even went into the clinic, I remember them saying that people outside hate you and to walk in quickly. And I do sidewalk. I know. I always say people like conduct yourself in a way that's safe, and women feel safe coming to you outside a clinic. So that's
Yeah,
my disclaimer there,
yeah.
because it's not true. The people outside the clinic do not hate the women going in.
Yep.
Um, but that is such a tactic that the abortion industry uses.
Mhm.
Um, you
We're
know,
always perceived as like protesters.
mm-hmm.
And so it
Yeah.
makes it hard for women to want to protest, especially you were told that
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
people outside hate you. So, whoa, I mean, that's something
Mhm.
intense to hear. Like, why? Of
Right. Well,
course
and
they would hate
another
you.
tactic, and I'll just share this. I feel like I'm a little bit rabbit holing, but I think it's a good, it's something that people need to hear. But we've actually had women tell us that they have security guards, and I've seen it too at the clinic. And so they think it's the police, and they think they can't change their minds.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, so there's that as well. And that's not the truth. They can't make you have an abortion, right?
Yeah.
But they felt like they were that they couldn't change their minds.
It
So,
almost adds to that like pressure. Like you're feeling
mhm.
really pressured when there's like a security person.
Yep, exactly. So I always try to hit on that. So someone hears that and they know that they can change their mind. So
Yes, you can always change your mind.
always change your mind. So yeah, so once I was taken to inside the clinic. And unfortunately, there was no one outside that day. And so I'm such an advocate for people being at the clinic. But no one was there. And then as a 13-year-old, I was separated from my parents. And I was taken to what they call the counseling room, which consisted of it's just a clump of cells. And that was like I had no idea. I still was pretty clueless at that point. I thought, well, we're at a doctor's office. They're going to help, but I don't know how they're going to help, right? And so when they
And
asked if, go ahead.
that's what your counseling consisted of, was being told that your baby was a
Mhm.
clump of cells.
Yep, that's it. That was it. Yeah, there
They
was
did
no.
they didn't ask you any questions like how are you
Mm-mm.
feeling? Dang, that's crazy.
No, and even knowing they knew that it was a sexual assault and they never asked any questions. And eventually that clinic was shut down because other minors had been taken there after being sexually assaulted and they never reported.
Well,
So
good.
that
Shut them down. Shut them down.
right. So yeah, so yeah, so they asked if I was ready for the abortion and I just said yes. And the first time I met George, he came in, he smiled, he said, "This won't take long." And what I can tell you is that, I've given birth twice naturally, and it was the most painful thing I've ever been through in my life. And just him telling me to shut up and and so we always get back to this thing of like, there's this misplaced compassion with the 13-year-old who's been sexually assaulted, but it was traumatizing. Like that whole thing was traumatizing. So it only prolonged my healing. It didn't take away the fact that I've been sexually assaulted. It just prolonged my healing. And
Right.
if my parents would have known differently, I think they would have made a different decision.
Yeah.
Um, and my mom she was so hurt she could hear me, that I needed help, and they told her that she couldn't help me. And so she ended up actually having a mental breakdown, and she ended up going to a mental hospital for 2 weeks
And
after that.
this was post-abortion?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep, after that, my dad, he carried me out of the clinic. I had hemorrhaged everywhere and they didn't like help. They just like my dad carried me over his shoulder out of the clinic and we did not talk the whole way home. No one wanted to talk about it.
I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh. That's
Yeah, so
terrible. There's nothing
yeah,
empowering about that, right? Like
there's
that's not the
nothing. Mm-mm.
when I
No, and yeah, and this happens all the time. We hear
it
these
does.
stories all the time.
And it's not getting talked about, and that's why, I want to
Mm-mm.
use this platform to start the conversation about like
Yep.
what you went through, what I've gone through, what so many other women have gone through post-abortion. It never gets talked about. But I think we all
Mm-mm.
can agree, like, it is not empowering. It's not
Nope.
empowering. There's nothing natural about it. Like when I had my abortion, it was like traumatic, like you said. I mean, I didn't have hemorrhaging, but it was terrible. I don't even like to think about it. It's really hard. It's a
Mm-hmm.
really challenging thing to think about, but there's nothing
Mm-hmm.
natural about having your baby like sucked out of you. It does not.
No.
It's
Mm-mm.
the worst feeling ever. So,
It really is. And when I learned about what abortion actually was, I was devastated. I was just so devastated because no little girl grows, you don't when you're a little girl and you play, you don't
yeah,
think I'm going to have an abortion. You play with dolls and you dream of being a mother, right?
yeah. Oh
And
my
so
gosh.
yeah, so it was just so devastating and awful. And so when I was 16, I got pregnant again, and Planned Parenthood had just been in our school. And at this point, I knew what abortion was, but I didn't know what Planned Parenthood was about. I was still really naive about them. And so we went to Planned Parenthood and they said, "You're young, you're in school, you're poor, you should abort your baby." Right. And so I went outside. My boyfriend was sitting in the car, and he grew up in a Christian home, but they never talked about abortion. And so he's like, "So what do you think about having an abortion?" And I shared my story for the first time. And he said, "You know what? we don't have anything figured out, but we'll figure it out. And we chose life that day.
That's
And so,
awesome.
yeah, it was really good. And we literally did not have anything figured out. Um, he was, we ended up getting married my junior year of high school. We were married. She was 3 months old when we got married. And because of our church support, we were able to finish high school. And by the time we were 23, we had 2 little kids. We bought our first house, and
Oh,
in our minds, we were like, man, we are beating the odds. Like, we're doing it, right? Like, we were doing the thing.
yes, that's
Um,
awesome.
but a year after moving into our house, I had a miscarriage and it rocked my world. And I was like devastated. But what I didn't realize it was a double grief that that I didn't know how to process at the time. And so my husband and we started to have marital issues and just really on the struggle bus in our relationship. Um, a couple years after that, my ovary ruptured and I nearly died.
Oh,
And
goodness.
then, yes, and then by the time I was 29, I had to have a complete hysterectomy. And we now know it was because of the abortion of why I had to have all of that. And so, um, it was rough physically, emotionally, spiritually.
Yeah.
Um, and so my kids got into middle school, and by that time I was struggling with being a mother. Like, I felt like my husband deserved a better wife. I felt like my kids deserved a better mother. And so I ended up, my plan was I was going to move out and I was going to get a divorce, and he was going to find a better wife, and a better mother for my children, because I had this abortion wound that I had not healed from. And
Wow.
so I was struggling with feeling even worthy to be a mom and a wife. And so,
Wow. So all
but
those years later, it just manifested.
it did, but we didn't understand. We had no idea why I was spiraling out of control. We had no idea. And so I turned to alcohol and drugs, and I was drinking every weekend. I was started using. Um, I justified it as I was having a good time, but I was miserable. I was
Yeah,
not. And
I understand that.
yep. And so it was just like it was terrible. Like, we just, my husband, bless his heart, like, he kept fighting for our family, and I just kept pushing him away. And there was one particular night I had gone out drinking, and I had used. And at this time, like, I could call people at 3 o'clock in the morning and someone would always come rescue me. Because people had no idea really what was going on. And at first they just thought, man, okay, this is a different side of Serena that we're not familiar with. But, it was funny for a time, because I was just so hilarious and I was so fun.
Mm.
Um, but this particular night, they were over it. Like, after a while, people get tired of your mess. And this particular night, everybody started to tell me no. Even my party people that were not living for Jesus were just like, no, we're done with this. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like, this is this is the worst night of my life. This is really how I felt. It felt like the worst night of my life. But what ended up happening is I got in my car and I just began to cry. And I sat in my car and I was weeping and weeping. And I said, God, I have no one but you. And what I love is God saw me at my worst. I was high and I was drunk and I
Yeah.
was a mess. And He lavished me in a love that I'll never, ever, ever forget.
Right there in that moment in the car.
Right in that moment in my car. And I knew
Wow.
that I knew that I needed to go home both physically and spiritually.
Yeah.
And by God's grace, I made it home. Um, and literally by God's grace, because I was in no shape to be driving home that night.
Yeah.
And my husband, he actually met me at the door. And what I love is God was working on his heart because I did not deserve for him to welcome me back. I didn't deserve that at all. And what happened was because of God working in his own heart, he welcomed me back in. And it's
Mhm.
kind of like the prodigal, right? Like,
Yes.
Jesus, like, we don't deserve it, but he's like, I've been waiting for you to stop running away from me and run to me and
Yes.
watch what I'm going to do. And so my husband welcomed me in, and we made a decision that we were going to start our healing process. And something I tell people all the time, healing is not cheap. And it was one of those things where, um, oftentimes like counseling and all the things, a lot of us say we can't go there because we don't have the funds to do it, right?
Mhm.
And we were right there. We did not have the money to go. And I remember my husband saying, you know what? We are going to figure out how to get the help we need. If it means that we are just eating macaroni every day, we'll eat macaroni every day because this is so important for the healing of our family.
Yeah.
And so we I started going to a counselor that went to my church, and I thought, my goodness, and I did not want to go. Let me tell you, there were days that I drove there and I would literally park my car and I'm like, this is garbage. I'm not going in. I'm not doing it. It was a fight, a battle every single time.
Yeah.
And
I can
so,
also relate to that. There's
yep,
been so
no,
many times where I like sign up for therapy and then the appointment comes and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna cancel.
yep. Oh my gosh.
Um,
Like I literally would go in. Finally, I would march my butt in to his office and I would surround myself with so many pillows. And I was like, so like, oh man, I was like, no, I don't want to go there. And
yeah.
what I love is this man was so gentle and so awesome. And it was just a lot of fear that I had. Looking back, I have a great relationship on a personal level with him now. And he said, "Why didn't you feel like you could tell me?" He said, "That breaks my heart that you felt like you couldn't tell me everything." And the abortion was the one thing that I didn't tell him. I told him about my sexual assault, and man, did I find so much healing going. It was awesome and amazing. And I was ready to go, like I felt like ready to go serve my church and help people. And I was so excited for that. But I still hadn't talked about the abortion.
Yeah.
And um, I had no idea what all God had for me. I had no idea. But one of my friends,
Can I ask a quick question?
yeah,
So would you say you felt more comfortable telling him about the sexual assault than you did about the abortion?
yes, because what I thought was if he knew about the abortion, he would go back and tell people in my church, and I didn't want people to judge me.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
I was just
Yeah,
curious, like why you
hmm.
were more nervous to tell him. I just feel like it kind of speaks to the volume of,
Hmm.
the issue. So,
Yeah, no, I mean, I just didn't realize at the time, I didn't realize one, how many people are actually hurting in the church from abortions, and two, um, I, along the way through my healing, I learned a lot of great tools that really did prepare me to through um, navigate through the platform God was going to give me. But also, I realized that it was a lot of lies that I was believing because there are so many people, they're like, man, thank you for sharing your story.
oh yeah.
Thank you. That's my story too. And
Mhm.
so it was really identifying some lies that I was believing personally. And so, yeah, so I've just learned some tools along the way. But yeah,
That's
it was, yeah. And so I ended up going to the movie Unplanned. I had never heard about the movie Unplanned. I had no idea what that movie was. Um,
I just heard about it like a week ago, and so I need to watch it.
yes, it is a powerful, powerful movie. It does talk about abortion, and so like people need to be aware of that because I didn't know, and it's very, I mean, it's pretty intense movie to be
Yeah,
honest, and so not knowing, I just thought it was a Christian movie, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go, and I went to the movie theater, and I was like, oh my goodness, what
triggering.
am I watching? Like, I just didn't. Actually, the thought was, this is my life unfolding in front of my eyeballs. That was my first thought. And I just remember like the Holy Spirit saying, now's time to tell the rest of your story. And
My
I
God,
was like,
I got goosebumps. Wow.
yeah. And so I was like, tell my story. Where am I going to tell my story? And so I ended up calling my local Right to Life, which cracks me up because I didn't know what Right to Life was. I had no idea anything about the pro-life movement, nothing. And I shared my story, and I later found out that they're like, is she for real? Like, is this story, like, is this lady for real? And my heart was that I just wanted to go outside of abortion clinics and help mamas choose life. That was my heart.
Yeah.
Um, and so they had a sidewalk training that they invited me to. And I went to the sidewalk training, and there was a sweet sister there. And she heard my story because I was just at this point sharing, because I told God, I said, I'll do anything you asked me to do the night He saved me, but don't ask me to be a speaker. And you should not say those words because
That's exactly what you're doing now.
I'm a speaker.
That's
Oh,
hilarious.
so funny. Yeah, it's hilarious.
That's how God
Um,
works.
it
Very funny.
is, it is. And so, yeah, so the sweet sister, she said, have you ever gone through abortion recovery healing? And I kid you not, I rolled her because I felt like I had started sharing my story. I had, um, I was in the process of writing my book. I was there was just all these different things. I felt like I was healed. I felt like I was in a good place. And the Holy Spirit said, how do you expect to help others if you're not willing to go there yourself? I was like, okay, there's that. All right. And
Wow.
so I signed up to go through healing, and it was amazing. It was so, so powerful, and life changing, totally life changing. I had no idea how God was going to use that for what He called me to. And um, I think that if I wouldn't have gone through it, it definitely would have hindered how what God was going. I mean, God can do whatever He's going to do, but I would have been reacting a lot to different situations. And so beautiful, beautiful process. It was so amazing. My daughter's name is Eliana Grace,
Oh,
and my miscarriage son is Malachi John. And so I know that one day I will see them. And actually, during the healing process, God gave me a vision of what they look like. And
gosh.
so it was so beautiful and powerful. And
I've never gone through anything like that myself.
uh,
And at the time when I had an abortion, I wasn't on like any Facebook groups or community or anything. I was just like super alone. But forgiveness is what helped me
mhm.
in my journey. But I wonder if I should look into doing something like that because
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some deep rooted things that I haven't really worked out yet. Let's be
Yeah.
real. Let's be real. I
You,
just
you
think that time healed it. I was like, oh, it was a long time ago. I'm fine.
Right. And that's
Probably
the
not.
thing, right? Like, yeah, there's forgiveness, but God has so much more for us that we don't even know. And so if we can help you, let us know because man, it is so powerful. And we want to help you we want to help as many men and women as possible, but because we know that God has so much for us, and just giving our babies honor and dignity, and
Yeah.
getting to the root of some stuff. So yeah, so
Yes.
let us know.
I know.
But
I will look into it for sure.
yeah, do it. Do it.
So
But
do you currently still do sidewalk ministry or sidewalk
yes.
counseling? Yeah.
So let
Cool.
me let me tell you what we do. That's part of going through She Found His Grace. Not we go through the healing class, but we actually we call it boots on the ground. And the boots on the ground, we go to different abortion clinics around the United States as a team, and we share a testimony so that the women going inside hear the truth.
Okay.
And yeah,
And so do
and
you just
so
like stand and talk while they're walking in, or do you
mhm.
wait until
we
like a woman comes up to you to share
yeah,
and just
we start sharing. We all have our testimonies. um we write our testimonies out and we share. We're there for quite a long time. Like, it could be a whole day that we're out there. Jackson, I think we had about 30 women go. And they're not expecting post-abortive women to show up in a group. They're not expecting that at
sure.
all. hmm
And have
and
you
so
had any success with that as far as like women
oh yeah, like
changing their minds?
so we had in Jackson, we had 4 women change their minds. We had a worker quit.
In what the
She,
four in one day?
4 in one
Oh
day,
my
and
gosh,
a
that is
worker.
so sorry. I get so excited. Like that's huge. Like, oh, four, but it's like that's four human
hmm
lives. That's
Yep.
four babies
And
saved
right.
one
hmm
day. Like that's incredible.
Yep. Yep.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, and so that's yeah, so we had that happen, and that was one outreach that we had. And those are the women that we do know. And then our organization, we have abortion minded women. Since you go out to the clinic, we actually have cards. We have a hotline where
Okay.
women around the nation can call us if they're considering abortion.
Okay.
And we have women that call us, that have gotten our information at abortion clinics. And what we do is we're able to love them and tell them the truth of what actually abortion is.
Mhm.
And since we started our organization in 2020, we've had over 40 babies saved.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, and
Praise
so
God. Oh.
yeah, and even one that was in the abortion clinic, she was actually in the clinic. Her boyfriend did not know that she was texting us, and we were just talking with her, and then all of a sudden it went silent for 4 hours, and we thought, this is not a good thing. This is not good. After 4 hours, she texted us and she said, I changed my mind. She said, I was on the floor in the bathroom crying, and they came in and they said all the women end up on the floor crying, but we just walk them through it.
Oh
And
my gosh.
I know. And
Oh, that
so
makes me so mad.
I know,
Like, how are
but
you? Whatever.
I know, but they brought the equipment in, and she remembered everything that we had texted her, and she felt empowered enough to get off the abortion table, and she
Oh
chose
my
life.
gosh. That is
Yeah. So,
amazing. So,
yes.
so are you like offering her resources in the community and everything, or are you just like
Oh,
giving
yeah.
her encouraging words and
Yeah,
um
so we actually have literature, like our texting hotline stuff. We leave it all over the country. People from all over the country hand it out, and then women can text us, and we just want to be a support. And then if someone has gone through an abortion, they can go through the healing classes. So
that's really
yeah,
cool. Wow.
yeah,
This is
yeah,
so awesome. I was
yeah.
thinking about because I'm gonna be outside with like a big banner that says feeling pressured, we can help, something along those lines.
hmm
And then I'm also gonna hold a sign. And I was thinking about on the bottom putting like ask me my story or something like
hmm
that, putting that somewhere.
Yeah,
So after hearing your testimony and hearing how you guys share your stories and how
yeah,
impactful that is, I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
I definitely have to be out there sharing my story,
yeah.
It seems
That's
like that's a
actually
really good approach.
Yeah, we actually, so we actually that's actually one of our outreach shirts that we wear is ask me my story. And then our signs actually say, my choice has a name. And when you go through healing, you name your baby, and we put our baby's names on there. So
So beautiful. Oh my God.
yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
part
And
of like your program, your healing
it
program.
is part of our program.
That's so
Yeah.
amazing. Oh my
And
God.
it's so good. This last time the boots on the ground was in Illinois, and we had our first dad out there sharing his story.
Yeah.
Because he thought that he thought that it was her body, her choice. And so he did not use his voice to stand up for his child. And so, and he regrets that deeply. And unfortunately, she didn't ever recover from it, and she ended up overdosing and dying. So,
Oh
yeah. And
my
so
gosh, that's so
he
sad.
shares her story, and so it affects men and women. And,
Yeah, it does.
we need to,
It affects everybody. I mean, it impacted your mom.
yep,
Oh, it
exactly.
impacts. I'm
Yep.
so sorry. My baby, he just woke up.
Oh, sweet baby. Oh, look at him. He's like, hello.
All right, I might just go grab him real quick. This is Noah.
Hi, sweet pea.
Hello.
Hello, sweetie. He's like,
Yeah.
I just woke up. He's so handsome, so
Usually it
cute.
takes longer naps, but of course, you know how
That's
things work
okay.
sometimes.
Yep, I do. I do. So,
Well, it's
yeah.
amazing what you're doing. I was just curious if you have any sort of advice or opinions about my approach on the like pressured side or just anything
Mhm.
you want to share with me about before I go out on my mission.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is what I would tell you is, obviously share your story. Share, I think the biggest thing for me, because being 13, and I thought, I didn't know, um, I had no idea. And a lot of girls my age who have abortions, and I think a lot of women feel forced to have abortions. Let's just be honest, right? But
Yes.
I think once we actually go through and get to the root of some of our stuff, and we realize that we have a voice, and not to let the enemy take our voice away ever again, is the most empowering thing. And also just helping those women see, there's a lot of fear, and they think, well, I have to do this because he wants me to do this, or he wants this, or he wants that, or whoever it is, right?
Yeah.
Um, but also just, sometimes I'll talk to young girls and they'll say, my mom and my dad are worried about people within the church and what they'll think. And I don't want this abortion. And I just really talk to those girls, and I'm just like, you know what? You have every right to tell them no, that this is not what you're doing. And if we can help you with any resources, we will help you do that. But you
Yeah.
know what? Your parents might push at first, but they're going to come around eventually.
Mm.
Everybody is reacting instead of responding, and we need to
Mhm.
figure out why are we all reacting to this? And usually it's a bunch of lies that people are believing. And so helping people gain perspective, so that they know that it's going to be okay.
Yeah. And I feel like that this is another reason why it's important to talk about the negative emotional impacts of abortion because if her parents were aware, like, oh, she might be depressed and have suicidal thoughts or become, addicted to a substance, like maybe if more people were aware of that, they would stop pressuring people,
Yep.
women to abort. So I'm
Yep.
hoping we can really start talking about that more and just getting people to understand like this is a serious issue and it's not okay to like force a woman to go through something that traumatic,
Mm-hmm.
like especially when she doesn't want to.
Yep.
There's never a reason that
Yep.
that's okay. And
Yeah.
I mean technically it's illegal to pressure women to abort.
Mhm.
Do you have the letters from the Justice Foundation?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So,
Those
yep.
are awesome.
They are. There's so many organizations working on all of these things, as as pro-life leaders, we're working hand in hand
Yeah.
to get clinics shut down, to bring awareness to the abortion pill. That's the next thing, is that stinking abortion pill.
Yeah.
Because a lot of clinics are shutting down, so they just put it online. And so it's just having those conversations so girls and women understand that part as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, I better care for this little nug here.
Yes.
Thank you for
So
your
precious.
time. I'm sorry that he kind of
That's
interrupted
okay.
us, but
You don't have to apologize, and
thank
anything
you.
we can do, let us know.
I
And
would love to get
um
those cards that you were talking
yeah,
about.
and you
That would
know
be
what?
great.
Healing classes, girl.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I
Mhm.
know that it's like, man, and there's always that lie of like, I don't want to go there. I don't want to work through this. And you know what? Healing is hard work.
Yes, it
It
is.
is stinking hard work, but it is worth that work, because if we don't work on that healing, it's like a wound, right? And every time it gets bumped, it's going to bust out all that junk, right?
Yeah.
But when we go through healing, the Lord's going to go in there and clean that out, and he's going to disinfect it, and it's going to be a healed scar. And a healed scar, there's like, we have you can see that scar, but it's no longer busting out over and spewing out. So,
Yeah. Oh,
so I
that's a
want to
beautiful,
encourage, yeah, I want to
beautiful
encourage you with
metaphor.
that.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, thank you
All
for
right.
everything you do and the women you're helping. And I'm so
Yes.
excited to hopefully stay in touch and save some
Yes.
babies and also empower women and let women
Yeah.
know like they are capable of being
Amen.
mothers and there's plenty of community members to help
Yeah.
them. And even though it's
Amen.
scary at first, like God turns everything for good. And
Does.
babies are the best gift ever, right?
They're the best.
They're the
They are the
best.
best. They are the best. He's so handsome. Aw. Yes. So just send
Exactly.
me an email and I'll get those cards to you. My assistant will mail them out. So,
All right, sounds good.
okay.
Thanks
All
for
right.
tuning in, everybody. Reach out to shefoundhisgrace.org or .com.
Yep. .org. Uh-huh.
Shefoundhisgrace.org to learn more about Serena. And yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. We'll talk soon.
See ya.
Bye.